Good morning, Miss. Okay, I will share screen now, waiting for the others to join. Okay, so for those who watched the video, of course, you know that the lecture is about the narrative essay and about the narrative writing. And it's going to be a twist because at the beginning of the year, in semesters 1 and 2, we were just talking about expository writing or informational texts, and we never talked about narratives. So now it's completely different. We are talking about narrative writing. Okay, guys, so I will start now with the lecture. First of all, I will allow you all to unmute yourselves in case you want to answer any of the questions. So, first of all, we are going to talk about the word narrative in general, okay? If you remember last week, our reading lesson was about David, who is a student who suffered from dyslexia, and he was narrating his story. He was telling us his story and what happened with him. So, whenever we say narrative, it means something. Who can explain to us? What do we mean by narrative?
Narrating a story.
Okay, what do we mean by narrating a story? Yes, Razan.
Telling
a story. Very good. Telling a story. Good for both of you girls. So it is telling a story. When I say narrating a story, it means I am telling a story. يعني I am telling about a certain experience, a certain thing that happened with me or with somebody else. Is it necessary to write about an experience that happened with me? Is it necessary? No. So I might talk about an experience that happened with me or with somebody else. Okay? So with me or with somebody else. This is what do we mean by narrative. Now, there are two namings for this type of writing. We can say narrative or personal narrative. Who can tell us what is the difference between a narrative and a personal narrative? Who knows?
A personal narrative is when the writer is telling a story about his life.
Excellent, about himself, something that happened with him, something personal, يعني related to the writer. So the writer is the speaker and the narrator, and he is one of the characters in the story. طيب, when I say narrative,
about someone else's life.
Very good. Something that happens with somebody, something that happened with somebody else. Okay? يعني somebody else's life, an experience that happened with my uncle, with my teacher, with my friend, with my mom, with my neighbor, with my relative, anybody else, but not me. يعني not an experience that happened with me. So, to just wrap up, a narrative essay might be a personal narrative or a narrative. It's personal when it tells about a story that happened with me as a narrator, as the writer, and it's narrative when it's happening with somebody else. Now, from which point of view is the narrative essay told? First of all, there are two ways in which the narrative essay is being told. If you are the narrator, يعني if the story happened with you as a narrator, it means you have to use the first point of view. يعني it's being said from the first point of view. Okay? So you have to use I or we. يعني I did that. I went to this place. We did that. يعني I am a part of the story. If the text is about somebody else, يعني it's a narrative essay and it's telling us a story that happened with somebody else, it means it should be set from the third point of view. So I have to say they, he, she, it, and so on. Okay? This is what do we mean by the first point and the third point of view. Something else which is very important is that the events in the narrative essay should be told in chronological order. How? It means if I am narrating a story, so of course there is a beginning for the story, there is a middle in the story, and there is an end, right?
Yes.
So I have to start with the beginning, then I have to move to the middle, and then I have to move to the ending. يعني what happened at the end. That's why I have to develop my ideas or the events in the story in chronological order. Moreover, something which is very important also now is the tense used in the narrative essay. What do I mean by the tense used? Let me ask you a question. If you as students are narrating a story that happened with you, then you are narrating a story that happened in the past or happening now at the present time or will happen in the future. When?
That happened.
Happened when?
In the past.
In the past, very good. So when I say that this story happened in the past, it means which tense we are going to use in the narrative essay?
The past tense.
The past tense. So, دايما in the narrative essays, you use the past tense because you are telling a story that happened with you in the past. Got it? Done?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Great. So is everything clear till now?
Yes.
Okay, let's take attendance.
Yes.
Because I want to close the waiting room. I want to enable the waiting room. Okay, just a second. I think you are all allowed to unmute yourself, so you are able to tell me if you are present or not. Just a second, please. Okay, let me now take attendance. Maram, Rihab.
Yes, Miss. Present.
Fatima Baddah.
Present.
Aline Shibani.
Present.
Zahra Dia.
Present.
Leia Ghrayeb.
Present.
Hamad Fawaz. Hassan Saleh. Hassan Saleh is not here. Huda.
Present.
Okay, Larissa.
Present.
Lynn Khalifa.
Present.
Ali Khalifa, I know you're here, Ali, but I think something is wrong with your microphone because you are writing in chat. Okay, Talim.
Present.
Okay, Dana. She's not here. Ali Basma.
Present.
Hassan Jarade.
Present.
Asil Haidar.
Present.
Laris Shab.
Present.
Razan.
Present.
And Zahra Saad.
Present.
Okay, guys, thank you. Let's continue. So, as we said, the narrative essay might be in two parts. The first, or two types. The first type is when it's personal. Yani it's narrating a story about your own experience, yourself. And it might be a narrative when you are telling a story about somebody's else experience. This is what do we mean by narrative. And we said that when we narrate, it means we are telling a story. Of course, if somebody asks you what is a narrative essay, so you can simply say that a narrative essay is a story. Okay, we said what does it conclude, and now we are going to move to the most important part, which is the story map. Remember, guys, when we used to when we used to talk about expository writing, we used to write an outline, remember?
Yes.
Okay. Fatima, do you have English Aslan? Do you have a school day on Friday? It's off, miss. Okay, so let's talk about the story map, which is something very important. So, نحنا on a story map, we have, miss, please stop sending in chat. You are distracting me. So what, even if you have off on Wednesday? On Wednesday, it's not off. On Wednesday, it's a normal school day. You don't have an English quiz this week, yeah, Fatima. Let's continue, miss. So, as I told you, in the expository writing, يعني in cause-effect essay, advantages, disadvantages essay, and so on, we used to fill in an outline or write an outline before we develop our essay. Now, in the narrative writing, there is no need to write an outline before developing the essay. There is something called a story map. There is a graphic organizer called a story map, in which you have to fill before you write your essay. Let's see, what does this story map include? First of all, the story map includes a title. The title should be written in the story map and should be written in the essay also as well. And the title should be related to the story. Yani it should give the reader an idea about the story, an idea about the story that you are going to narrate. And it should be related to the story. I don't have to get a title from the outer space. Khalas, I can write a very simple title, but at the same time, it should be attractive, it should be catchy, it should be, it should allow the reader to feel excited to feel motivated to read your essay. So the first element of a story is the title. Now we move to the second element. The second element of a story is the characters. Who are the characters? The characters are the people who are acting in the story. يعني the people who share the writer his experience. They might be his friends, his teacher, his relative, his neighbor, his mother, and anybody else. So when I say characters, it means anybody who is acting in the story. Okay? يعني الشخصيات. So till now we have two story elements. And the title, which is very important, and then the characters who are the people acting in the story. And of course, when I fill in the story map with the characters, I don't write all the characters in the story. I have to state the main characters. No need to write the minor characters, only the main characters. Okay? Now we move to the third story element. The third story element that we are going to talk about is the setting. Now, the setting is divided into two parts. What are these two parts? The first part is the time, and the second part is the place. يعني أنا when I write the setting, in the same column here, I have to say time, have to say time and place this way. Okay? Time and place. بجي أنا. What is the time? The time is when did the story take place? Yesterday, in summer, last week, and last year, 2 years ago. This is the time. When did the story take place? And the place tells us where did the story happen or where did the story take place. Where? Okay? This is what do we mean by time and place. This is what do we mean by a setting. So a setting is divided into two parts, the time and the place. The time is when did the story take place, and the place is where did the story take place. يعني the place in which the story happened. It happened at school, it happened in the forest, it happened in the airport, any place. So, again, we have three main elements of the story till now. The first element is the title, in which it tells what is the story about, because it should be related to the story. The second story element is the characters, which are the people who are acting in the story or sharing the narrator his or her experience. The third element is the setting, in which it's divided into two parts, the time and the place. The time tells when did the story happen, and the place tells where did the story happen. Now we move to the most important part in the story map and in the essay at the same time, which is the thesis statement. Concentrate on it. Listen, as you all know, the thesis statement is the main idea of the essay. يعني the thesis statement tells me what is the story about. Okay? So when I say this is the thesis, it means I am writing, or I am telling the readers that the story is about this and that. So the thesis statement is written in the introductory paragraph, يعني in the introduction, and it's the last sentence in the introduction. It tells what is the story about. يعني if the story is about facing a problem with my parents, then the thesis statement will directly tell the reader that the problem or the story is about this, this, this. So the thesis, as I said, is the main idea and the story, and it tells what is the story about. As we said, it is written in the introductory paragraph, and it's usually written at the end of the introductory paragraph. Yani it's the last sentence in the introduction. Clear till now? Is everything clear? Any question?
Yes. No.
No.
Hala, of course, tomorrow, I don't think we're going to have enough time today to cover this, but tomorrow we are going to talk about the main points that a thesis must include in the narrative essay. لأنه أكيد the thesis in the narrative essay is different than the thesis in the expository, and a different way of writing. Now we move to the conflict. What is a conflict? Who can tell me? What do you mean by the word conflict?
The problem.
The problem, very good. In every narrative essay or in every story, usually, there is a conflict. There is a certain problem that might take place, okay? So, in your narrative essays also, you should include a conflict or a problem, okay? You just say that the problem is this, this, and this. That's it. When you finish stating your problem, then you move to something important called the events. What are the events? The events are the ideas which develop the essay. Yani the events are the ideas which develop your body paragraphs. What happened with you? How did this conflict happen? What happened when you faced this problem? How was this problem solved? The events. Yani what was going on with you? Of course, these events should be written in order, in chronological order, from the beginning to the middle to the end. Yani these events should be written in order. And added to that, in the story map, يعني in this graphic organizer, when you are writing the events of a story, you have to write them as phrases, not as complete sentences. When you develop the essay, you can write them as complete sentences. Okay? فأكيد you write to the conflict, the problem that you faced. Then you move to the events. يعني what happened with you in order to develop your essay. Hello, you might ask me, Miss, how many events do we write? My answer is, you can write 2 events, 3 events, 4 events, 10 events, based on the story that you are writing, based on your experience. And of course, all the events should be important events. يعني I cannot write in the events, I woke up at night and drank a cup of water. This is a very silly event and it's not an important event. Okay, يعني it's not going to make sense in the story. That's why no need to state it here in the story map. You can mention it in your essay when you are developing your ideas, yes. But in the story map, no need. In the story map, you just write the main events, the most important events that took place in the story. يعني the events that led to the solution or the events that led to the ending of the story. Okay? يعني no need to write every single event. Now, when we finish, there is a part that I have missed here, which is the ending. Now we move to the ending and to the lesson learned. Let me talk first about the ending. يعني هون, you should have something called an ending. Okay? What is an ending? An ending is the end of the story. This is what you mean by an ending. The ending is not necessary to be a solution. يعني it's not necessary to solve the problem every time at the end of the essay. Sometimes the problem won't be solved. Sometimes you might have a happy ending. Sometimes you might have a sad ending. It's not necessary to have a happy ending every time you narrate a story. مش ضروري. Okay? Sometimes you won't have a solution. And this is nice. يعني sometimes you might leave the reader with an open ending. You will ask the reader to imagine the ending, and this is something nice. Okay, so it's not necessary, and every time the problem is solved and everything goes well. Okay, this is the ending. Now we move to the lesson learned, and this is very important also. Since we are talking about narrative writing, narrative essay, and since we are talking about experiences, then you have to write a lesson learned. شو يعني lesson learned؟ يعني let's say that I faced a problem with my parents. So of course, after this problem or after this experience, I learned something. Let's say that I faced a problem with the school administration. Of course, after this problem that I have faced, I learned something. I faced a problem with one of my friends. After this experience, I learned something. So دايما after every experience somebody has, he or she learns something. They learn a certain lesson. Sometimes it's like you have to say the truth. Sometimes working hard is very important. Sometimes you learn that, let's say, helping for your friends is something very important. Sometimes you might learn that you have to stop bullying others. Yani every experience teaches you something. So at the end of your story, you have to write the lesson that you learned from this experience. Okay? Till now, is everything clear? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So guys, as I told you, نحن in this type of writing, the narrative writing, we are not going to write an outline. We are going to write a story map, a graphic organizer, fill in a graphic organizer called a story map. This is a story map. We have a title, we have characters. These are called the story elements, the setting, the time and place, the thesis statement, the conflict, the events, the ending, and the lesson learned. Okay, clear till now? Now, when somebody asks you, when will I use narrative essays? What would you answer him? Why would we use narrative essays? For what reason? For what reasons do you use narrative essays? For what reasons do you write narrative essays? Nobody knows?
Miss, what's the question?
For what reason do you write narrative essays? Why do you write narrative essays?
To tell a story about someone's life.
Tell a story, that's it, about someone's life.
No, that's
my
about
life, just to tell a story. Okay? So when I say I am writing a narrative essay, it means I am telling a story. Let's now move to the transitional words. Oh, let's move to this. This is very important also. Here in this slide, Miss, they summarize every part or every element of the story. What does every element of the story include? First of all, the conflict, which includes the problem that you faced through the story or the problem that somebody else faced through the story. لأنه if you are writing about yourself, it means you faced the problem. If you're writing about somebody else's problem, it means somebody else faced the problem. They are telling us about the climax. The climax, Miss, is the turning point in the story. The climax is the part where the tension or action reaches its highest point and reaches its maximum. Then they are talking about the events. As we said, the events are the stages of the story. Yani what happened first, what happened next, what happened at the end. And let me tell you something very important. When you are filling in the story map, and you are writing the events, write the events as phrases in the story map. But when you are writing them in the essay, you can develop them and write them as complete sentences. But in the story map, write them as phrases, okay? Then we move to the ending. Look what did they say here to show you that what I said was very important. Is the solution or what happens at the end. Yani it's not necessary to write a solution at the end of the essay. You have just to say what happened at the end, whether if the problem was solved or not, whether if this is a solution or not. Just tell what happened at the end. Okay? Now we move to the lesson learned. The lesson learned, as we said, you all learn lessons from your experiences. So it's the recommendation or result learned from the experience you or somebody else passed through. If the text is about you or about somebody else. So it's a recommendation, it's a piece of advice, it's a lesson that you teach to others based on the experience that you or somebody else passed through. Now we move to the last part of our session for today, which is the transitional words or the phrases for narrative writing. As I said, narrative means narrating a story. Narrating a story means there is place and time. So you have to use transitional expressions which are related to time. Yani before, after, as soon as, at the end, at the beginning. At first, after that, later on, subsequently, before long, after 10 minutes, the second day, next month. All of these are transitions that might be used in order to connect your ideas. Who can tell me why are transitional words very important in any type of writing, not only in narrative writing? Who can tell us? Who can tell us? Nobody? What's wrong with you today? You're not sharing at all. Why are the transitional words important? Why? For what reason? Yes. So let me tell you. So, yes, Huda?
Miss, it helps to connect the ideas.
Very good. The first thing or the most important things that the transitional words do is that they connect our ideas. Our essay would become more coherent. Our ideas would become more coherent, more combined. You will enjoy reading because the ideas are connected in a very professional way. That's why we use transitional words. Also, here we have some concluding transitions. Concluding transitions are used in the concluding paragraph, يعني at the end of your story. So you can use them, for example, all in all, at last, at the end, finally, in conclusion, on the whole, thinking back, ultimately, and in summary. There are many more to sum up, to wrap up, and so on. All of these also are used as concluding transitions that can be used at the end of the story, يعني in the concluding paragraph. Okay, guys? Is everything clear till now? Yes?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, guys.
Yes.
So, tomorrow we are going to talk about the thesis statement, how to write a correct thesis statement in a narrative essay. What does each paragraph of a narrative essay include? Yani, what does the introduction include? What does the body include? And what does the conclusion include? And we are going to have a model essay, a model narrative essay, in order to read the prompt and see how we started our essay, what did we include in the body paragraphs, and what did we include in the conclusion. This was everything for today. Thank you all for attending, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Okay?
Okay, miss.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
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 Ali?
Miss. Miss.
Yes, miss. Any question?
I have a question.
Yes, Huda.
Yes, me. Huda. Miss, for the flip grid,
Yes.
is the, what do you end it? How much time do we have?
You have 1 week. I sent you the link on Friday, so you have till next Friday.
We have to tell a story on it?
Yes, you have to narrate a story. That's why your writing is about a narrative essay. Writing and speaking are always related. So you have to narrate a story about a time when you faced a problem with your parents. How did you overcome this problem? How was the problem solved? And so on. Briefly, in 2 to 3 minutes, that's it. Okay?
Okay, Miss. Thank you.
You're welcome.